Gabby Staten Island on the Craft Growers Network. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will see that I'm joined by Saraquoia, the host of Women of Weed. And in
Hi.
about 20 minutes, we're going to be joined by Ranchera Mami. And we're going
Mhm.
to talk about her weed story. We're going to talk about weed, women in weed. But before we get started today, since we had a little extra time, I wanted to talk about my sponsor, Dr. Dabber. They've been super kind to me. They've sent me a whole bunch of stuff. And what I really want to talk about today is the Switch Go. And I'm going to compare it to the Dr. Dabber Go and compare it to the Switch.
The
Look how
bubble
much,
dabbler.
yeah, look how much smaller. Oh, I'm going to be fucked up today, people. Okay? Because not only do I have um, these two Dr. Dabbers that I want to discuss. I've got Lemon G. Oh, I'm gonna be smoking
A
some
little
Lemon
bird
G.
must have.
Yeah, I don't know how that
Yay.
happened,
There
but
you go.
this is the real deal, the historic Lemon G. So I'll be smoking that today. I also got something really special. I got some Ricky Brothers Kush.
Ooh.
Okay, so Gabby's gonna be getting pretty fucked up. Oh, and then I've got GMO terps. And these are like terps that I got from Earl Hill. It's got to be like 6 years ago. And you can see all the THCA that's falling to the bottom. So now it's just like sauce again.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be dabbing this and it's going to be great. But
Well, now that you're back in your own studio, you're really taking advantage of that.
the kids are back at school. So we're going to
Yeah.
get fucked up. But one thing that I wanted to start off with, I am in love with this product from Dr. Dabber. Forget about their great dab rigs and everything. I love these ISO snaps. Okay, and what it is it's um, cotton swab, and this plastic tube is a straw that holds alcohol. When you break the
Oh,
top, the bottom swab gets soaked in it. And so I want to show you how I
oh.
clean my Dr. Dabber products before we use them. Normally, I clean them like right after I burn, but I wanted to keep this a little bit dirty just so I could show you guys because, like I said, these ISO snaps these are great for anyone, whether you use Dr. Dabber products or even just a torch. So I'm gonna turn on the Ghost, and what I do is I just give it like a quick warm up. I don't even let it get like all the way to dabbing temp. I just let it get warm enough. See, there's a little smoke coming out of the top. Now I'm gonna shut it off. Then with this Q-tip, and this is a regular Q-tip. I'll use this first. I give it a good wipe. And that's really almost good enough. Like it's really clean now. But I like it to be perfectly clean. So we're gonna use the ISO snap. And the reason why it's so easy to clean with just a Q-tip is if you do it often, it stays way cleaner. You see the ISO going down into the Q-tip. And now I give it a wipe out with the alcohol swab. And honestly, I did a really good job cleaning this thing. Now I go back to the cotton swab to dry it off. And then I just turn it on for a second and just make sure that we've evaporated off any of the ISO that's in there. What is up, Greasy? Hope you're having a great day. We're about to go live on YouTube with Ranchera Mami. But before we do, I was given a little, I don't want to say a lesson, but showing people how I clean my Dr. Dabber products before we use it. I'm going to do the same thing here with the Dr. Dabber switch. I actually think I already cleaned it, but we'll just check. I gave it a quick warm up. give it a quick wipe down with the ISO. We want everything to be super clean. No, it wasn't clean. You can see. Sorry, I'm getting a text message. And we are back. So, gave it a good wipe. Get a regular
So it's a
cotton
glass
swab.
stem?
Yeah, so this is a quartz in here. Do you mean in the in
Yeah, and the
this?
Q-tip.
No, it's plastic.
Oh, okay.
It's just a
Okay.
little plastic straw. But the Dr.
Okay.
Dabber, what makes these things special, the Switch and the Go, is that they do have a quartz bucket inside.
Right
And
on.
they're so easy to clean and they taste so good. Um, in my opinion, it's far better than anything else I've seen. Better than the Puffco products. I've tried them all.
Huh.
Anyway, this is ready to go. And the Dr. Dabber Go is ready to go as well. And here we go. These things are tiny. Now, one thing, so I love the size on this Switch Go. The one thing I like about the Switch is I like that the buttons are on the same side as the mouthpiece. So when you're hitting it, you know, I don't know, I kind of think it's weird that I can't see the buttons on this, except if I'm
Hmm.
on camera.
Right.
But anyway, that's a minor
The little one
thing.
doesn't have the water filter either,
It
right?
does. No, it
Oh, really?
does.
It's in there
Yeah.
still. Wow. Okay. Right on. That's pretty compact for that.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
small. I don't
Right
know if you
on.
guys can see. It's so small. And like, I've watched other reviews and people talk about how much smaller it is, but it's really hard to tell until you get it in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Switch has been living on my nightstand. I've been using it every night, like before bed, but it's kind of big and it's heavy, to
Mm-hmm.
take it with you. And this Switch Go is just super portable, so I'm really loving it. Now,
Nice.
another difference between the Switch Go and the Switch is the size of the atomizer. So I'm gonna see if I can show you these without spilling water. So, that's one plus side of the bigger model is that the bucket is much bigger. And it's not just so that you can put bigger dabs in because I don't put big dabs in, but I like it when the dab has a lot of room to spread out on the bucket and not just like puddle up. So like one of my issues with like the Puffco products, like the Proxy and the I forget what it's called, um, is that it's so small in there that even when you put a small dab, it tends to just like make a puddle. And when there's enough room on the bottom of the bucket, it really allows the dab to like vaporize a lot faster, So, oh my God, I wish you guys could smell this.
We just
You,
don't have smell vision yet.
not yet. We're working on it. But I am going to put a dab in the Switch. Well, that one's too big considering I'm going to be doing a few of them. I'm going to put it in the Switch, and then I'm going to put another one in the Go, and then I'm going to put another one in the Ghost. So I am going to be pretty fucked up, people. Just give it a minute. I'm going to be high. And, I didn't do an unboxing or, like a lot of reviews because I feel like that's been done already. I just wanted to give you guys my opinion on the difference between. And now my thing is a little bit warm, so it's hard to scoop up a small dab. There we go. The difference between the Switch and the Switch Go. So that one's loaded up. And now, because I'm stupid, I'm going to do the Ghost as well. Now, the Ghost does not have the quartz. It's a ceramic bucket inside. And I really like it Like I said, this is the one that's like in my pocket when I like go out, when I go to a concert or something. But the Switch just tastes so much better with the quartz inside, and it's a bigger. Oh man, I'm definitely putting too big of a dab in this little thing.
Uh-oh.
There you go. But it's harder to consume all the product in the Ghost. It tends to kind of like puddle up a little bit on the bottom, and then I end up just like wiping it out and wasting some. But when I use the Switch, I'm able to consume like the majority of the dab. So, and you can use the app on both of these, not simultaneously. But I decided I'm just going to go with the normal controls. I have them set to the heat point. I generally do it to the lowest one possible, which is, hold on, let me do this again. That purple color. I'm going to do that, and got to turn this thing on.
So what's the app for? Just to like turn
So
it on
that,
from across the room, or like,
well, it's really cool because it allows you to see what the temperature is inside.
okay.
And so,
Wow.
like, as it's heating up, you know when you're getting closer to that point where you're ready to vaporize it. You also have a countdown clock, so you see
Oh,
when it's gonna shut off. So the app is, I actually thought the app was gonna be bullshit. Like, why do I want to
yeah.
use the app? I just want to use the buttons. But once I started using the app, I really like it. But because I'm live on Instagram, can't
Mm-hmm.
use the app at the same time. But
Uh,
so first, first I'm gonna use the new one. Again, look how small it is. My hand almost doesn't fit in this groove over here. Here it's like, so this is just really nice how small it is. This will be going out with me, but the other one doesn't. So anyway, I think it's just a quick hit, and it's gonna start, and it has like a progress here. See that red line as it's heating up? Gives you an idea, and then it'll turn green when it's ready to go. But honestly, I always start drawing on it a little sooner. Well, the combination of Dr. Dabber and Earl Hill, oh my God, I'm in heaven right now. And I have been hoarding this. I had like a few jars of it, and this is the end of this. I've had it for 6 years, and I've
yeah.
just
When
been
you
like,
said how old it was, I was like, wow, you must have mad stashed that. Like, I gotta forget about this. Put it away.
well, one day I'll break out my stash out of my refrigerator and show you, but I have like jars that I've collected for years from these guys.
Yeah, right on.
They let me do R&D for them,
Hell
you
yeah.
know. So but yeah, so this is one of the ones that like I was like, "Oh my God." And the truth is like what I normally do with this stuff is fill it in carts, right?
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
this was just straight terp pour
So
off.
thick. Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
but so what happens over time
Mm.
is because it's terp pour off, there's still THC in it, and
Yeah.
over time it's gonna crash out,
Separates. Yeah.
and right, so now it's separated,
Right.
and so
Uh-huh.
like I couldn't fill any more carts in it because there wasn't enough terps in it, and yeah, I just decided to break it out today. I'm gonna hit this one again before I go to the other.
Mm.
And like I said, normally what I do is, as you see that red line going, I'll start hitting on it before it turns green.
Well, it's definitely quicker than my volcano. That thing takes like minutes to heat up.
Well, I was also gonna say, so one other plus on the Switch Go, or a plus on the Switch Go, is it heats up much faster than the
Really fast.
Switch.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because the bucket is so much smaller.
Smaller.
It has
Yeah.
it has a smaller place to heat it up. So I mean, I noticed, and we're gonna hit the switch in a minute, but it definitely heated up faster, and the quality of the experience is exactly the same.
Huh. Right
You know,
on.
like because I've been smoking.
Yeah.
What is up, Not So
Not
Dog?
so.
Gabby is pre-gaming
He
with
is.
Dr. Dabber today.
Oh my God.
Dude, look at
Yeah.
this. These
On
guys
it.
have hooked these guys have hooked me up so fat. I'm so grateful for
That's
these
pretty
guys.
stoked.
They gave me
Yeah.
the Switch, the Switch Go, which is the mini one. Look how much smaller this is. And then the Ghost, which is the pocket version.
Wow.
So we're waiting for Ranchera Mami, and while
Mommy.
we are, Gabby's getting all dabbed. So you guys
No.
can
Yeah,
expect
this is
that.
the Gabby that's not in the shared workspace,
Yeah, I'm
right?
not at the shared workspace today. My kids are
This
back at
is
school.
this
He's
is
celebrating.
10:30 is a good Wednesday start time for me
For
because
dabs.
I dude, my school
Oh yeah.
district is doing this experiment which might become permanent, but like
I'm gonna turn this on while you talk. Go
they're
ahead.
starting school on Wednesdays and Fridays at 9:30 in the morning
Yeah.
to
Is
give
that earlier or
teenagers more
later?
rest.
Oh, okay.
So
Right
it's
on.
later,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So, I mean, everybody, because with phones and just life and everything like that, like kids are staying up later and later,
Right.
and you just get less sleep,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, they say
So
teenagers, if they're left to their natural habits, they'll sleep in late for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing I want
Um,
to point out to everybody that's watching, some people might be thinking, "Oh damn,
Wait a
Daddy,
second. Is everybody watching, or is it just us three?
we are live, people."
Oh fuck. Okay.
Why?
Well then, nothing.
You just
I
talked
you just
about your
started
kids?
talking to
No
me and
worries.
Sarah like we were
Like we're
like
friends?
Anyway, I'll shut up.
Well, no, don't shut up. It's all good. Um, so one thing, people might be looking at it and thinking, I don't get giant clouds off of this thing. It's intentional. There's different set points. I'm not sure what the temperatures are, but I always do it at the lowest temperature. Okay. And it is creating vapor. I am getting smoke out of it. So for me, that's good enough. I don't want to get a hot dab. But this is the lowest temperature. And just for science, I'm going to choke myself out. And I'm gonna go to the second setting. So this is the second. It's over 500 degrees. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but we will heat this one up a little bit hotter to show you guys you can get a massive rip on these things. I'll tell you, I'm so in love with this little thing. I can't wait to take it out with me. Take her out on a date.
is that ghost?
No, the ghost is this little one.
That's the really little one.
Yeah, I guess I should hit the ghost. Well, yeah, I prefer the cooler dabs. Okay,
Yeah, for sure.
so that's why I
Yeah, too
But
hot of dabs turned me off to dabs for a while.
well, I mean,
Uh,
honestly, that one wasn't so hot that it didn't hurt me or anything, but it
hmm
made me cough,
Right.
and I prefer
I
the
hear
like
you
smooth,
though.
the
Yeah.
smooth experience. But
Hmm.
now third in a row, we're gonna do the ghost,
Oh my
and
God.
dude, and you didn't hear Not So Dog.
Oh, this is a preloaded
No, I loaded
ghost.
it. I loaded them. Dude, this is GMO terps
Okay.
from Earl Hill that I've had
Uh-huh.
for 6 years, and I've been hoarding it, like, because this is the end of it, and it's so
There she is.
nice.
Dude,
Hello.
hello, dude.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Welcome.
We hear
Yeah,
you
We
just
can.
fine, and you are live, just so you
yeah, we're
know.
Oh,
live.
We,
okay, perfect. Hi.
Hey, hi, welcome.
you know what? I'm gonna save
Welcome to
this
Women
dab
of
for a little bit
Weed.
later.
Yeah,
Gabby's been getting all
he's been getting
messed
his
up while we
Dr.
wait.
Dabber going.
Oh, I
Anyway,
love the
Love
Dr. Dabbers.
Yeah,
yeah,
very cool.
I'll just
Yeah.
leave it by saying thank you, Dr. Dabber, for sending me all this great gear. I I think this is gonna be my go-to now, like every day, because the truth is I've had this switch on my nightstand next to my bed, but it is still kind of big, you know. And this thing, it works. I think it works exactly as good. Like I got just as beautiful of a hit off of it. Um, I'm assuming the battery won't last as long because it's not as big. But yeah, it's awesome. So everybody go check out Dr. Dabber. I'm supposed to have an affiliate link, but I haven't figured that out yet. Doesn't matter. I don't need the kickback. Just tell Dr. Dabber that you saw it on the Craft Growers Network. And with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Saraquoia and let her introduce Sue, and we will
Yeah,
start today's
welcome
episode
so
of Women of
much.
Weed.
Yay, Sue. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you have a big farm and a lot of things happening out there. I always see you out there doing the work, which is how we get it done. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for having me.
yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your weed story, like your how you got or why you have your farm there, and then we can talk about what you're up to now with the working to classify the women's businesses and stuff. But I
Thank
figured we
you.
would start at the beginning, you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
So,
Thank you. I will try to make it as kind of concise as possible. I feel like a lot of us, we have really big stories. Like every single one of us that's in the cannabis industry, there's a lot of pivotal moments that push us to the point where we're at right now.
mhm.
Some good, some bad, but regardless, doors opened and like we're here. So I feel like we should all like be blessed and like, give ourselves a little bit of self-appreciation.
Yeah.
To still be standing here representing the cannabis space on, whatever forefront you are at. So
Yeah.
congratulations to everybody that's still resilient enough to keep up the hard work
Yeah.
and not take no for an answer and, to keep driving themselves because this fuel that started my passion for the cannabis industry came from a recovering addiction. So I was a 12-year pharmaceutical addict from the age of 13 to the age of, or I should say 10 years. So from the age of 13 to the age of like 23, I was battling a really heavy pharmaceutical addiction. And during my early 20s, I moved to Oregon and I started working with a girl that I met in class in her basement grow in Portland, Oregon. So if anybody's familiar with all the old school growing that used to happen in all of these basements in the Portland areas on the east side of the river, it was pretty notorious. Pretty much like every one house on every single block, you could smell cannabis, or you could see like a lot of people would put up a green light kind of like signifying that they were, kind of like a part of it, so to speak.
Huh.
And, really through the transition of working with the plant and being around people that push more of the plant as a medicinal property, and saying like, hey, like I used to do pharmaceuticals too, like come and work for me, let me pay you in weed. And like let's just see how that like kind of changes like your day. And so like this woman Nissa, she like took me underneath her wing and really provided a safe environment for me to be in. And so throughout that journey there's been a lot of women who have had like really big impacts on the cultivation side and also like on the confection side. I was an award-winning edible maker. I worked for Groon, Journeyman, and Mr. Moxie Mints up in Oregon and helped build multiple award-winning edibles with them. And
Mm.
all of these opportunities kind of like paved way for my college at the time because obviously, college isn't cheap. I didn't have a
Mhm.
car. I went to
Yeah.
my first, hill season, like in NorCal, when I was 22. And my life changed completely, throughout all of this, from being on the just, like being to consume side of things to actually being like, wow, there's like this whole community that's a part of it. And, some of it's very welcoming, some of it's not welcoming. And, just trying to find that fuel that really like pushed me to go farther. I mean, honestly, it was like every bad interaction I have, every time that I didn't get a job, every time that I was told that women belong in the grow room, all of these different things, that's what really fueled me to be bigger and better. I mean, my dad raised me,
Yeah.
so did my grandpa, and I had a brother, so I was used to like heavily competing, against
Yeah.
like what I felt like were guys my whole life. I come from a military family. Both my parents are veterans. And so like having that drive of like that women can do anything. And so it's like, I love to think that like the growing up and hearing that like when they did the Nike Michael Jackson commercial or Michael Jordan commercials, not Jackson, Michael Jordan commercial.
He
And
did
it was
Pepsi,
like,
right?
yeah, I think he did. Um, so like the commercial that came out was like anything you can do, I can do better. Like, no, you can't. Yes, I can. And my brother and I used to like sing that to each other like all of the time, like when we'd be playing around or like trying to, you know, make little games out of things. And so throughout the transition of like going through college, but also working in the cannabis industry, I met the love of my life in Santa Rosa back in 2017. I was sent down with one of my friends, and we were there to trade seeds with a list of breeders. And one of the breeders' names on the list was Crockett Family Farms. They said what genetics they wanted from them. And so we went around to all of these genetics like booths at the time, like way back when like genetics was the sole focus of cannabis events. It was, to get your flower, to get your extracts, and to get your genetics, for your next coming season. And
Mm-hmm.
so, we met that day, and, we kind of just had this, uh, like really true, beautiful, like love story from like the get-go of things. Transitioning to 3 years later, me finishing my master's of science degree in public health administration. I moved down from Oregon. We had already started working on various projects up there for a few years. So, one of the things we wanted to do was to, build out a farm, like to be able to kind of like, I would say like it's the American dream. Like for me,
Yeah.
I'm a second generation Mexican American. My abuelita came to the U.S. when she was 3 years old. And so she worked in factories her whole life. My mom went into the military when she was, 21 years old, was in ROTC, was a competitive diver for Ball State University and a gymnast. And, like she was very selfless in regards to building a life so that she could better our life for us, and wanting us to go do something that wasn't on the factory side or wasn't on the agriculture side, as like she grew up in that.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny to them for them to see me now, because I went to college, I lived in all these
Yeah.
cities, and then I said, no, I think I meant to like be with the plants. I think I meant to be like a steward of the land.
That's
Um,
great.
and so like fast forward 6 years later, here I am. I've had my licensed hemp farm. I've been a licensed hemp farmer for over 7 years at this point.
Yeah.
And being a female within this space, not just on the agriculture side, but on the land ownership side, as well as as a female within this space,
Mm-hmm.
a big proportion of things to me is community. And it's
Yeah.
like understanding from, my background of like what our community health, transpires to. And so like it's a wellness wheel. And if we think about, what access do we have? Do we have access to transportation? Do we have access to good lodging? Do we have access to good food? All of these things affect our overall day. And,
Mm-hmm.
the truth is that, things aren't as equitable as what people foresee them to be. Just because, yes,
Exactly.
we all have the right and we all have the ability now to own land and to obtain licensing, it didn't mean that 100 years ago that, Latinas or Latinos and
Yeah.
Black communities and Asian communities
Or native
were or
communities.
Native communities were allowed to buy houses or own businesses. And then fast forward, to the 1950s, when women started getting rights to owning houses or opening up their own bank accounts here in the
Right.
United States, that was for white women. And then let's just
Mm-hmm.
continue that benchmark for another 20 years. And so it is a very powerful thing to be a woman in this space
Mm-hmm.
right here in 2026 saying, hey,
Heck
I
yeah.
own my farm. I
Yeah.
own my land. I own the business, and I own and I work all of these things right here. So I'm very
Yeah.
proud of how far I've come, and I'm very proud of all of the women that I see on the agriculture forefront taking up
Mm-hmm.
space within an industry where there are thousands of licensings that are
Yeah.
out there in the US. But today, right now, through my current research of the female national census of ownership within the
Yeah.
cannabis and hemp space, we've identified 121 farms. And out of that, 19 of those farms are women of color owned farms. So
Well.
if there's thousands of licensings that it's out there and only 19 of us hold those licensing, and overall 120 of us actually own the licensing for those farms, we
Just
were
women.
able to
Yeah.
see that there's a huge gap. And yes, we
Yeah.
kind of have known this through, past research and everything like that. But,
Mm-hmm.
how does that transpire to these women advocating for themselves? These women knowing that they hold a true power within them, being
Mm-hmm.
one out of the few, one out of the
Yeah.
thousands that are out there to say, hey, I'm actually a female owned farm. And I want people
Mm-hmm.
to be able to use that to their advantage as a female owned farm, being able to advocate for themselves, being able
Yeah.
to give back, education to other people, why it's important for them to be a representation and to be a role model. Like we
Mm-hmm.
are role models. There's countless times that
Absolutely.
I meet younger women, and even I meet women that are like 2 years younger than me, and they're like, oh, I'm 30, I want to be just like you when I grow up. And I'm like, damn, I'm not I'm not like super old or anything like that. But
Yeah.
like it's definitely true. There's other women that inspire me on the
Yeah.
everyday, Sunshine from Sunbolt Grown in
Yeah.
NorCal.
Yeah. We had her on the show.
She
She's
is a
great.
huge inspiration. She's been a huge
Yeah.
inspiration to me, as well as Miss Red Reefer and the Dink Duchess. Like these are
Yeah.
women that have been OGs in the community space, as well as Jane Doe. All of
Mhm.
these women, their impact matters, regardless if they
Right.
had a connection or they actually had a conversation with me. Being able to see them do what they did was my inspiration to know that, like, hey, I can look like you, or hey, I can be sexy, or hey, I could be as modest as I want to be,
Mm.
but there's no ideal look or, um, there's no ideal look or actually representation of what a female farmer is supposed to be look what like, but that's why diversity is important. So that
Yep.
when,
Yes.
a young Black female sees a Black female farmer like Farmer C from North Carolina, they look at her and they say, yeah, I want to be her. So or a young Asian girl like looks up to Tina from Moonmaid Farms. It's
Yeah.
important
I
to have
hear
this
that. I hear
representation.
that. Yeah. It definitely is. Yeah. And bless the people that took you in Oregon, and there's kind people out there that help people when they have pharmaceutical addictions and that just like are having trouble on their own as a young person, because that's a huge struggle if you're young and you have no resources and you're out there, so that was a huge change of events for you. That's fucking powerful.
I
Can
mean,
I?
huh?
Excuse me.
Shoot.
Can I share
So
something?
bless them for helping
Um,
through now. And yeah,
Sue, did you see the? I think I made a video when you had to cancel the last time because you had a power outage. Did you watch that
yeah.
video by any chance?
I watched just a little clippy of it, but I didn't get the time to watch all of it.
Well, did you
Fill
watch
me
the?
in.
Well, did you watch the part when I apologized for um forgetting what the term is right now, but like I didn't realize what a badass you were. You know, like Well, what was the term that we're talking about? Like the whole purpose
Well,
of this show is to not.
Misogyny.
No, not
yeah, well,
misogyny. Come on, bro.
judging
Are
a
you
book by
serious?
its
No,
cover alone
no.
is more,
Well,
like,
no. Okay, I'm sure we'll think of the word in a second when I describe what happened. Okay, like the purpose of Women of Weed is to highlight badass women that have a history in cannabis and to do
yeah.
exactly what you just said, to inspire
Hmm.
women to
Hmm.
not only grow but like also tell their story, like
Yeah.
women that have inspired people, you know. you know I want more women to inspire more women, and I want more men to realize, oh, I remember what the term was. I'll say it in a second. But I want more men to realize, hey, you know what? There are a bunch of badass women in cannabis, like our host today, Saraquoia, breeder of
Mm.
the lemon G that I'm about to roll up right now. She's a
You,
badass,
you
and
know, and I
and
think
and
one
and
of the
what
things
I want.
that's different.
Let me
Sorry,
say
I was
this.
just thinking about the differences
I
with
mean,
women.
I'm
Let,
making a
I
fool
let
out of
Gabby
myself here,
finish.
so you guys should just allow
Yeah,
me to
we'll
do
let you
that.
finish.
well,
Okay?
I
Yeah, because I'm about to like say like, you know, I don't want to say they were shitty, but a little bit it was marginalizing. Okay?
Yeah, that's
Because
the word.
people said
Hmm.
to me, "Oh, you should have Ranchera Mami on the show." And so like I took a quick glance at your Instagram and I'm like, "Okay, this is a pretty girl that's posing with weed and I was like, well, that's really not what I want the show to be. What I want the show to be is like women cultivate, because there was this thing like back in the day, you'd go to High Times and they'd hire a bunch of models to like work the booths and stuff. And these girls, they didn't even like weed. They were like cokeheads and
Oh yeah.
stuff. And they were just there because they were getting paid. And
Yeah.
so like for me, the whole idea of like a cannabis model, it kind of is just like, it's not like I don't like pretty women, but so when I first saw your posts, I was like, well, yeah, she's smoking some weed around her trees and stuff like that. And I didn't give you enough credit,
Yeah, and
And
that
then after I
happens to
did a little
women.
bit more research, I was like, oh, she's actually a badass. And she's been
You're out
doing
there
this.
doing the
She's been
work.
doing this like you're a young girl and you've still been doing this way longer than a bunch of the guys that are watching this podcast right now. And then when you just spoke, you blew me
Yeah.
away. Like you are what this show is all about. And so I wanted to publicly apologize to you. And like I also mentioned, you guys know Haley Penn from
yes,
Yeah.
Humboldt Seed Co.
highly,
You
yeah.
know, so like just because a woman doesn't decide to like always be talking about weed and like trying like my lady on her Instagram, she doesn't talk about herb even though she loves it, and like she doesn't like, and she might pose make a cute picture or something like that too, and I don't hold it against her. I don't marginalize her for that. So like the fact that Haley on her Instagram, it's not all about herb, but she's going to be one of the more powerful people, forget about women, in cannabis. Like she's, the heir to a fairly large seed company in California. So she's Women of Weed. And she doesn't have to prove it by like going on Instagram or YouTube and doing that. And I just want to encourage you to not only here today, but on your social, let people know what a badass and what history you have, and you are an excellent speaker. Like the way you
Yeah.
just like started the show and told us about you and what, like, you're great. And so I apologize that I didn't look into you more
You,
and to like realize what a badass and what
so
history
you've
you have
you've
in
opened up the
cannabis.
Pandora's box of like women just get judged right away
Okay.
as being not as capable, right?
What?
That's just
No, I
happens.
what
Or
No.
I
like
see. I
Well.
don't think I
or
was
like
doing
just a
that.
pretty
Okay. Check it out.
face.
Right.
I don't think I was doing that. I was just thinking like I didn't realize that there was anything else because she didn't show us. But she
I'll.
doesn't have to show us. Like
Dude, I
like
think
she doesn't have to prove herself,
I have I have 2 points maybe.
So
One real
did I
quick.
make a significant fool out of
Okay.
myself to start the show?
No, you're fine, dude.
Okay.
One thing, just
No,
real
no,
quick
I think
about
you were really more honest than most. I do
that
appreciate that about
that
you.
specific
Yeah.
subject. Just real quick, when I used to run around the country and hustle with the dead, the guy that I used to kind of like mentor by was like, "You need to look like the biggest nerd on the planet." He's like, every person looking at you is going to judge you within the first 3 to 5 seconds of looking at you. Don't look like a hippie. Don't look weird. Look totally normal because you want to blend in. And so the idea is, I think, just naturally people look at different people and we categorize and we judge and we put people
Mhm.
into different zones, and you do it without thinking too,
Yeah.
like a lot of times, and it's like people would be stunned that I was a hippie because I had like a Republican hair part. The other thing that I wanted to mention, because it just like made me think of my mom for a second, but when you were talking, like the positive part about stuff that you were talking about is change can happen quick, right? Like my mom has a funny story she always used to tell me about. She got married to my dad when she was graduated and had a job, and he was in his final year of college, right? So she goes to get a credit card at Montgomery Ward, okay? And
Yeah.
they won't give it to her unless my dad came down and signed for the
Ah,
little lady to have a credit card. And she's like, well,
wow.
wait, I have a real job. Like, I'm a social worker. I get a paycheck. My husband is unemployed and isn't even graduating until this spring. But until
Wow.
the early 70s, a
Yeah.
man had to sign for a woman to
Right.
get a line of credit,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
So
know?
it's just kind of
Like,
inherent that women are just like looked at as, oh, can you really do it? Or, we like, I
I
feel
just,
like
I
we
just
have
mean
to
that, like, we've
overcome
come
more of that.
far in a short time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But like,
But
and like, so
we have a
the other
lot.
thing that she was saying was like, when you're the child of immigrants, like especially like I think, Mexican or Hispanic immigrants perhaps, like they want their kids to go to college. They want their kids to do better than they do. Like there's sort of like, I don't want to say it's a stigma, but like they don't want their kids to be involved in farming because they don't want them to be ranch where they want them to be lawyers or doctors or this or that, or they want better for their kids and then better for their grandkids. And so when she was
Yeah.
talking about how it's kind of funny that she's back in farming, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of they want to get out of farming, not because they don't like it, more I think more just because it was like the starting point,
It's hard
and
work.
it's
It's
hard
hard
work and
work.
it's long hours and all that type of stuff. And
Mhm.
the other point I wanted to make just really quick, and then I'll shut up, is when she was talking about going to the Emerald Cup in like I think it was 2016 or 17 when she met her dude.
Your main
I
man.
think, yeah, I think people might not know this, but like then, before like the wreck really had hit and all that stuff had happened, that was in people growers would gather post harvest, and they would talk about their season, they would talk about their plants, they would show up to that event with like a list of, I hope I can go talk to these breeders and buy these seeds for my next season. And I
Yeah.
remember going, Crockett and DNA used to have like a partnership. They might still. And I remember going and they would have like a booth that was like, 4 booths and aiming in every direction. And there were these big
Wow.
lines
Yeah.
in every direction all day long to get Crockett and DNA seeds.
Yeah.
Because DNA and Crockett, they were smart in the sense that like when IG first came out, I think they hired professional photographers to go to their greenhouses and take pictures of their herb, and
Hmm.
they had much better photography than most people. So
Hmm.
you would see their strains and you would drool over them because they looked
Mhm.
delicious.
Yeah.
And then you'd go to the Emerald Cup, and the Emerald Cup back then really was sort of like a NorCal and others family gathering of growers and breeders and hash makers and randoms and different types. And so, um, yeah, Crockett was huge then.
Yeah.
They really were. They
So,
were they were one of the big. They had Tangy. They had like people would eagerly anticipate their next release, and a lot of stuff they would drop at the Emerald Cup. So then you'd be standing in line trying to buy their seeds. anyway, I know I rambled a little bit, but
Tangerine.
just as far as women, my mom's still alive. Within her lifetime, right?
Yeah.
As an adult with a
Yeah, we're
job,
here.
she had to get my dad to come in and sign that she had the right to get a Montgomery Ward credit card.
Yeah, we've
You
come
You
a
know
know?
what's
long
funny
way,
about
girl,
that?
but we still
So,
don't have a lot of ownership representation in the farm. So, but
Yeah.
it sounds like this your Crockett farm is a pretty big place, huh? How many acres of hemp are you farming?
So currently right now, we are doing 300 acres in Tulare County again of industrial hemp fiber
Nice.
production. And then we have 3 acres of boutique hemp production that I do and
Mm-hmm.
maintain here at our main farm. And then
Mm-hmm.
our family farm is where we do all of our genetic production, but as well, we have 2 acres of industrial hemp out there as well.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, no, Crockett Family Farms has obviously, for everybody that knows, they've been around for ages, right? And they have done some incredible things out there, as well as DNA genetics. Yes, I feel like DNA genetics, as well as like strain hunters um and and Ariane, they had really prefaced themselves or positioned themselves to be kind of like the cutting edge, like the top of the top breeders
Yeah.
back in the day. And they were pushing a lot of like, kind of documenting their journey. They have
Mm-hmm.
Strain Hunters TV that still exists today.
Yeah.
But DNA did the same thing with a group called like the Fly High Club, which I believe they're from Europe, somewhere around there. I'm not exactly
Huh.
sure. But they really did some exceptional like videography and photography work that really set them, selves apart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that there's more than meets the eye, right? So it's like some people can't help what they look like, like I'm gonna be honest. I can't help that God graced me with what I look like. I can't help that he gave
Get
me
it,
my looks.
girl.
I can't help that he gave me my intelligence. I can't help that he gave me the ability to have a persuasive and,
But
kind
blessed you
voice,
are.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So none of us, got to choose the bodies that we came into. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why representation is important, because there are
Yeah.
plenty of women that look like me, and maybe they were cheerleaders. Maybe they were competitive cheerleaders in high school, and they were just like one of the biggest stoners, and they got voted most likely to, be late for graduation because they were a big stoner. That was me, right? So
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
also a swimmer. I was a co-captain of
Cool.
my swim team. No, you would not have perceived me as being this like big, steady, like big, heady, like, stoner or anything like that. But I was. I was probably one of
Yeah.
the biggest party girls like back in the day. And, I feel that it's a double-edged sword. It's like kind of having to try to prove yourself. So it's like, okay, well, let me have
Right.
the conversation. Let me speak so that you can actually see that there's depth and there's not vapidness within the conversation.
Right.
Because you can meet plenty of people that look, a certain way, or they, whatever, but they may not know shit about shit. Right.
Right.
So I think
Right.
at the end of the day, when it comes to the perception of like, okay, what do women look like? That goes back to like, where do women belong, in the
Right.
industry? Like,
Exactly.
would you see me
Yeah.
as a model? Well, actually, when I first started in the cannabis industry, the companies that I worked for, like Groon, they said, hey, and they're like one of the largest companies in the US right now with their
Huh.
chocolates, right? And their
Right
little like
on.
mega gummies or whatever. So they're on the CBD side, they're on the
Mm-hmm.
THC side. They just got bought out by Wild Gummies for like a few $1 million, right? The
Huh.
owner of it, Christina, badass, super, super beautiful.
Yay.
Swear to God, they kind of
Women
based the
owners.
book of, that Weeds TV show. I'm pretty sure that the
Yeah.
real Nancy Botwin is her, quote, quote.
I know that girl
But if
from
people, but
somewhere.
yeah, but if people look into her, then you know who, one of the people that I worked for. But looks are deceiving. And so she
Yeah.
wanted me to do the, like, she was like, I need you to go to the events. I need you to talk to the newspaper people. I need you to be on the TV. I need you to be
Mhm.
a part of the commercials that we're doing. And then I had other companies start to reach out. And so, no, it wasn't something that I ever thought I was going to do and
Yeah.
to be a face of my company, because when I came to California, regulations started changing on Instagram. And it couldn't just be
Yeah.
like, yo, here's my frosty nug. Like, look how fire this looks, right? Like, it went from taking photos of our buds to taking photos of our butts, whatever, who cares? Like, if you want to, dress a certain way in your
I
garden,
hear
dress
you.
a certain way. I'm sorry, it's 100+ degree days over here. So in the morning time at 6 a.m., I'm probably going to be in a bathing suit or shorts and a little sports bra or whatever. I can't help it. I'm not going to go put on some heavy clothing because I'm not going to
Right.
get all sweaty and all hot, right? Not
Yeah.
for me.
I get it. Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it's very important to, I think that a lot of people, when they're online, they look at the face value of things. They don't look at
Hmm.
Yeah.
the highlights
Yeah.
that I have. They don't look at my link tree and say, wow, she's been featured in over like 100 magazines in the past 10 years. She's been on 50 different podcasts. She's done all of this. She's been recognized for being, 40 under 40 by the Business Association of Fresno County. They don't realize that my farm won second
Yeah.
place for best agriculture farm, competing against best agriculture farms
Oh
here in
yeah.
the Central Valley, right? Not cannabis farms.
Yay.
I competed against big ag companies and I got second place in that, right?
That's
That is a
great.
huge accomplishment. And so, what
Yay.
I would say to anybody is if you want to get to know somebody, like, take the time, get to research them, because there's a lot more than the perception of what somebody sees versus who they are at the end of the day. And I'm just saying, it
Heck
doesn't take
yeah.
one time to get to know somebody. I'm saying, and it doesn't take 5 times to get to know somebody. You got to build that relationship with them and you have to invest. Just like they're
Yeah.
probably going to invest into getting to know who you are and that kind of
Right.
preface of things. Now,
Mhm.
would I rather just show my field and show all my plants and everything like that and talk all about genetics and talk about farming and all those things? Yeah, I show a moderate amount of that. But
Mhm.
my main goal is stigma and pathway reduction. And what I mean by
Yeah.
that is when they look at me and they see, hey, okay, first and foremost, she's Latina, right? Well,
Mhm.
okay, now I'm helping break down the stigmas for Latinos that are in the
Yeah.
cannabis space. So no, we're all
That's
not just
it.
like cartel drug dealers over here. We're fucking farm owners, right? We're
Yeah.
respected
That's
by the
it.
community. So there's a lot of perceptions and boundaries and barriers that it's my goal to help kind of normalize, what we look like, what our culture is like. There's more to just like the cannabis culture. It's not just cannabis, right? Like, it's like, well, what do we do outside of that? Well, I like to go paddleboarding. I love cooking. I love,
Yeah. I see you
gardening. I
on the
love doing
water
all
a
these
lot.
things. I
Yeah.
love the water. I'm a water dog for
Yeah.
sure. Like, all day, every day. I grew up on the Neuse River in North Carolina, right near the Atlantic Ocean. And
Man.
I spent all my time kayaking, like out and going boating and everything like that. So, like, health and wellness is super important to me. And to be able to kind of let people see it more into the lifestyle of who we are rather
Mhm.
than like, yo, this is the product I'm trying to sell, right? I don't want
Right.
to just like sell a product. That's
Right.
why you don't see me like making little ads for, I don't know, vape
Right.
companies or whatever. And
Products or yeah.
unless there's some good money, Oh, but also shout out to Dr. Dabber too, because they always sponsor our workshops. And I absolutely love their pieces. And I have been working with them for a few years now. And just absolutely love Daniel and the whole team and everything like that. And thank
Cool.
you for being honest, Gabby, about, how
Yeah.
your perception changed. I think that's really
Yeah.
vulnerable to be able to like open up and to be able to like kind of acknowledge that,
Yeah.
because I think that by you doing that, I think that more men out there will maybe take the second step to
That's
go
it.
try to see, like, hey, like,
Yeah.
is there more depth to this, or is this just like
Right.
fluff, or
Right.
does she really grow, or does her husband grow all these plants? Because there's a ton of
Right.
babes out there that their husbands are the growers, but you know what? Who has to watch the garden when their husband goes on that business trip?
Right. Exactly.
Because she's not
Yeah. Or
normally
like who,
posting those
yeah.
things. Yeah, I'm just saying
Yeah.
the amount of times that amount of men I know in this industry that have girlfriends and wives that are big dogs, right?
Yeah.
That leave and their
Yeah.
wives are at home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Somebody's got
sometimes
to
some
watch the girls.
well, not only that, but like
Yeah.
sometimes people, sometimes people might play a super important role, but that role isn't like the forward facing public role. Like they're like, I'm going to grow the garden, I'm going to be
Yeah.
raising the kids, I've got this going on and that going on.
yeah.
You're
Uh-huh.
the face. I'm not the
Right.
face. I'll pop in every now and again, but that's not what I want to do. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, um,
so
huh?
what I want to say is that, and I'm not trying to backtrack or defend myself too much, just a little bit. But you know,
I forgive you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I don't want to be
Yeah.
hated. And I,
You're
I
just
and I did I
Yeah.
did
No, I really
stuck my neck
appreciate.
out there to get cut
Yeah.
off,
No,
and I can
but
get a whole bunch of
it
hate in
allows
the
for
chat.
conversation.
But what I was gonna say is, like men in cannabis often feel they gotta like be like, look, this is who I am. These are what my skills are. Look,
Mm-hmm.
and like
muscles.
right,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And a lot of times, women like even Saraquoia. I'm gonna go back to pumping her up because she doesn't do it. Like she's a fucking badass, and she's not on
Yeah.
social going, oh, look at me. I've got all this experience. She doesn't do that. So like I think
I try to share
I
some knowledge, but
right, but you don't like try to pump yourself up. You let other
yeah.
people go in the chat. Yeah, Sarah Koya is the real deal. She lets other people talk for her.
Women
And
growers are so
Yeah.
humble. We're
Yeah.
like literally the
The
most
huge
humble,
difference. Yeah.
almost very little ego,
Mm-hmm.
like I swear the women
Right.
growers that I've met, they're like, it's like they have so much love for themselves
Yeah.
in general. And this is what I invite others to do too. Is like
Mm-hmm.
find that love in yourself, to know that like, you're confident and you're capable and you're
Yeah.
culpable, right?
Right. And that there's space, to bring others in, because I think that's the main difference between women and men in the cannabis space that I've noticed. Is kind of what Gabby was talking about, that persona of I do this and I do this. It's like women tend to network with other women and push each other up
they
and
let the
support each
product speak
other's
for itself.
products, right? Even like talking about what the other person's doing, it's like less of a competition and more of a like more partners and more friends coming in. So and I notice a lot of men are more like aggressive about their what they're up to with their gardening, or like what they were, or they're not as likely to mention the other guy's product or like come in and share secrets and knowledge, I think, has been
Yeah.
What
And
I
I mean,
will
you
say,
mentioned
you know
Haley earlier, and
uh-huh.
she is a badass and she's
yeah,
beautiful, right? And
Uh-huh.
so, there's a big stigma, probably potentially just looking at her from the visual perspective of like,
Mm-hmm.
she is a generational like legacy,
Yeah.
going to be the future of Humboldt Tea Company. She is a phenomenal person,
Yeah.
kind inside and out, knowledgeable to the brim, right?
Yeah.
She
Right.
has nothing to prove to anybody.
Right.
She is like that girl, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that she is
I agree.
phenomenal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And almost
Mm-hmm.
untouchable because of those things right there. She is a
Yeah.
powerhouse. So ego does not have to drive her life because she is who she is, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I just think that, like, you know, one, it's okay to look at people and to have a judgment. Why? Because we're all human, right?
Yeah.
Now, as much as we try not to judge and do those things, you know, it's going to happen. But to be able to reflect on it and to be able to like make yourself like, I think that like women are kind of like a little bit more privy to this. It's because we understand that we are always constantly judged. So a lot of us have,
Right.
you know, certain things that we've done our whole life to, you know, not bring that kind of energy into our life. And even being around other people who, you know, maybe
Yeah.
somebody's like, oh, what is that person wearing? And you're like, doesn't matter what they're wearing. Like, they look
I
like
tell
they're
my kid all
happy.
the time, I'm like, they're not gonna look at your shoes. Like,
Yeah.
they're
So
thinking
like,
about their shoes, you know,
we
or
already
whatever.
know we
Yeah.
already know this, you know. So it's like for
Yeah. So
us,
yeah, I
when we
hear
look
that.
at
That's
people,
the
we're like,
applied
okay,
concept.
you
Yeah.
know, when somebody
Yeah.
says something to me on Instagram, and let's say like I'm going to judge them, right? And I'm purposely
Yeah.
wanting to judge them because I'm thinking about something mean I can say to them. Now I don't ever do that because I just end up blocking them because
Yeah.
I don't even entertain things.
Not worth
But I
it.
do.
Yeah.
I think about it. And I
Yeah.
don't just look at like what they left me and that's what I judge them off of. Man, I will go through their whole Instagram thing and I'll be like boom, 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 boom. And in
Rabbit
my
hole.
head, I'm just like, oh, like,
Don't
dude,
mess with
I
her.
fucking got you. And then by the end of that, after thinking all of those things, I'm like, okay, let me just block you, right?
Yeah.
Because regardless, like if I felt
Saves
like that I
time.
was being judged, you know, I'm not a self-righteous person, and I believe that, you know, I believe that ethics and morals are kind of like at the forefront of my daily thought process, which is why community
Oh
and
yeah.
relationships are so important to me. And
Hmm.
our every single day to day, you know, reaction. And just know that I hold nothing, you know, like no, I hold no resentment. I don't need to like, you know, I don't need to feel that like I harp on myself or that I would feel bad about something, you know, that is thought or that is said, you know, about me because I'm in control of my own head. And I
Yeah.
think like the biggest portion of, you know, kind of finding yourself in this industry is, you know, realizing that especially on the farming aspect of things, like we're out in nature a lot, but maybe not around people as much. So every interaction is important. And it's so important for me to like leave it on a positive note
Yeah.
and to have like a good time while I'm doing it. Because, you know, if this is my only interaction out of my whole day that I'm having, you know, why not
Yeah.
make it a great one?
That's it.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Wavy Gravy would say like, if it's worth doing, make it fun, you know, because if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. So
I just think, you know, people, you know, people that judge in general, right? Like, you know, it's like, there's this thing one time when I was um uh we talked about it before, but I was incarcerated once and I was reading this book of the Dalai Lama and happiness. And
yeah.
one of the things he said that was really interesting was he always talked about how, like, when he meets someone, he's always looking for similarities, right?
I,
And I think what you guys were just talking about a bunch is like people looking at things and being like, oh, she's pretty, but in a way to like discount, you know what I mean? To be like, oh, well, you know, like in some kind of negative thing. So like when you meet people, if you look for people that have, well, like what is their similarity? Oh, we're both human. Oh, we both like weed. Oh, we both like this. Oh, we might be both the same, like, you know, and like whatever it might be, that builds a bond. And when you look
mm-hmm.
for reasons why people are different, which I think humans naturally do really fast, they naturally do
Mm-hmm.
like an initial judgment. And it's like, are you looking for things that are similar to you or different? Are you looking for things that you can be impressed by someone or some way to quickly disparage them?
Hmm.
And I think that's like undercurrent of what goes on, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like,
Yeah.
I do think that like in general being attractive is an advantage, but it also makes a fight harder with some people,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. You get
Like,
like, yeah. Yeah. Well, I
Hey,
think also being a woman, but definitely being a beautiful woman, you get like kind of marginalized or like, you know, looked at like, oh, well, you know, whatever. Yeah. I've gone through it,
but
but
you know, like to
yeah.
flip side that for a second, like if you were to meet and this is nothing against him, but if you were to meet Haley's dad, right? He's just sort of a normal, grizzled, humble, gray-haired dude. And so if you
He's a
had to
big daddy.
choose
Yeah.
him or his daughter to be the centerpiece, when his daughter is not only everything that Sue just said about being a badass and a kind person and also this, but she's also attractive and, a good public face. Like,
Hmm.
she's an excellent public front of that company. You know what I mean? Like, they're just using their family advantage, you know what I mean, in that sense. And so, like, I think it can be a positive. Like,
Oh,
this, like, I
It's
don't worry
easy
about
for
things I
us to
can't.
say that because we're men, but I
yeah.
agree. But I agree. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and that's why there's two men co-hosting the show.
Okay.
Okay, to be like,
Well,
hey, maybe let me say this because, like, I feel like when you're beautiful and you you have it down, now you're a killer. Like, it's like, you know, I mean, particularly
So,
in a male, like an industry that has so many men in it,
right.
if there's a beautiful woman that's a badass grower, it it just seems to be an advantage. Not,
Well,
but like I said,
once
I'm
you
a
get
man, so
past
I
the
can't.
judgment of the book's cover,
But like
then
sure,
after
yeah.
you
10 minutes
can
of
No,
like,
Sue
it's a
speaking, wait, let me
two-sided
say this.
coin for
After
sure.
10 minutes of
yeah,
Sue speaking, like at the
yeah,
beginning of the show, it's like, yeah, this woman is a badass grower. And
yeah.
like this podcast could just be straight audio, and like we didn't
Okay, wait.
have to be talking. And I didn't know it was going to get into this conversation for so long, but I
Here's a
guess
random
I
side.
guess it
Well,
is
here's
the
a random
idea. The
sidebar.
idea is to break the stigma, and
I mean, yeah, I
to
think it's
to
important
like show women that
conversation.
women are
Yeah,
badasses, and we
yeah.
are trying to highlight badass women in cannabis. And what I'll say is, it took a minute to realize it, but after I scrolled a little further and further and further into your Instagram, like your Instagram is over 10 years old, right?
Yeah. I've
Like
had it. Oh my God. I've had it since I was like
like
18 years old,
yeah,
I believe, and
somehow
traveling
you
through
haven't had it
Australia.
taken away.
Oh, no,
And
no, numerous times. I just have been
oh
able to
really?
get it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well,
I
I
have a
mean,
I have a
you've been
random
Uh-huh.
weed
posting about
question.
cannabis forever and like growing it.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
saw I saw pictures of you growing cannabis over 10 years ago
If you look
on your
back, you would
Instagram.
see some original photos. Like I was like, oh, like back in the day when I would watch the Vice like movie, like the shows, the documentaries about people like in weed, and then like I was in like Humboldt, right? And I'm like, oh, here's some little photos of me, with a bandana, and I'm in front of like a dry barn and everything like that. And I was like, oh, like this is like so badass. But I love being able to kind of catalog like my story, because if you do look back through the very beginning and you see the like where it kind of starts from and how it transitions, the various places that I worked with and worked for throughout the years, all the people that have came along the way, all the growers and breeders that I've gotten to work with, it's been an exceptional like experience. And so like, I mean, there's a great way, like I think like what you guys are doing is an amazing thing to be able to say like, hey, like I support women, and I'm not just a supporter of women, I'm an ally of women. You're like not only able to help provide like, give a platform, but you're able to, kind of identify things and be able to open up your mindset and potentially open up other people's mindsets. And I think that that is like the true definition of when we are looking for like an ally, like we're
Heck
going to say,
yeah.
hey, this man is an ally of women over here. He supports
Mhm.
women. And, like there's a big discussion, that I've heard recently, like online, within, the conversation of women and, women being, really amazing brokers and everything like that. And I'm just like, yeah, they are. All of the women brokers that I've ever met, first and foremost, like they are baddies, right? They got nice cars, they're independent, like as fuck, right? And
Yeah.
the way that they just travel and move themselves through this industry and being able to leverage what they have,
Yeah.
you know, that is super, super powerful. And I mean, I think that's why they said that women, you know, were like the best brokers, you know, like in the
Oh,
yeah.
marketplace. And I was like,
I
okay,
saw
okay, yeah, I agree.
Wow.
I saw this thing,
Oh yeah.
just a little clip on Instagram on a different podcast where they were interviewing this guy from Humboldt, and he was basically like, right now, the last number of years, he's like, the female brokers actually run the game.
Yeah.
The most important brokers, he's like, in California and in NorCal, he's like, right now are all women. He's like, he's
Awesome.
like, it never was like that before, but he's like, I shit you not, right now, if I went through and named the ones that are really making money, power moves, he's like, and not only that, but like honest and dependable. And like, they're not
Yeah.
trying to jack you, they're just trying to do good
Right.
business. You know what I mean? They're
Right.
gonna do what they say they're gonna do in a timely fashion. You
Yeah.
know, like they have all the little things figured out. He's like, they're really starting to dominate. And he's like,
Yeah.
because men would rather deal with them and have it go smooth because they've crossed their T's and dotted their I's and they're
Right.
on it, you know,
We're
in that
more
regard. And so
cooperative, less competitive, I think.
I
than
just
the
heard
men
that like
in the
this last
market.
week or whatever, where, you know,
Yeah.
like they're really starting to, you know, and that's good. I think in a way, there was there was a certain danger element, before things got a little bit more legal. And one of the
Well,
positives
yeah,
of
there's
legal,
that too, being a woman and being like, you know, just literally less strong than people that you might be in situations with, like out in
yeah,
the
it
middle of
just, there's,
nowhere,
you
you
know,
know, also requires like a certain level of like, you know, being able to cope with, you know, being able to handle yourself and be there in a confident way and show up.
Yeah.
so
And
But
you know,
also
we cover so
understanding
much.
that it sucks to say, because it's like you're like, oh, since the cannabis industry is legal or yada yada yada, like you know, misogyny or like machismo is gonna go away, or sexism is
Yeah.
gonna go away,
No.
or
Right.
jokes are gonna
Yeah.
go away. No, they're not. They're still gonna be there.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
you know, the thing is like not everything's worth like starting an argument over. You know, sometimes like
Right.
money is money that's on the table. And a lot of times you're
Mhm.
going to be in conversations that maybe do make you feel uncomfortable. And as a woman, you know, how do you react really does change the flow of things. There are
Right.
multiple ways that you can speak up for yourself and let it be known that, like, hey, you're not a fucking about that shit, right?
Right.
And when the time and place comes, you know, like a lot of people know what to do. But for women that don't know what to do, you know, it's
It can be
okay
really
to speak up to you
uncomfortable. Yeah.
for yourself in that
Yeah, they need
position.
to. Yeah.
But
I
it
have
doesn't
a,
have to be something that puts down somebody else at the same time. It can be something that allows for a healthy conversation
Yeah.
and a facilitation to, you know, meet each other where you're at that moment. But to
Mhm.
understand that these things, they are going to happen. But do not
Mhm.
let it ruin your day. Do not let it
Yeah.
ruin your deal. Let just finding how you can move forward and reduce, you know, the odds of those things, you know, potentially happening. But I
Mhm.
mean, it's not avoidable. It's going to be there.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes I hate to say it, but you know, if it's something that's like super serious where you're being overly sexualized, but I'm just saying, if there's like just one distasteful joke about women not being whatever,
Yeah.
whatever, just laugh it
Right.
off, just move
Yeah.
on with it. You know, like you're gonna meet a bunch of people that you don't like, and if you've been here long enough, you will go to people's farms and you will see some things that you will probably not ever want to share with people, because
Yeah.
you're like, wow, this is who's behind the cannabis industry. Like
Wow.
there's a lot, you know. So I
Mhm.
mean, I think that being tactful about how you go about it, but also
Right.
understanding that it's really not for the faint hearted. It's not
Yeah,
for
definitely
somebody
not.
that's going to, you know, potentially be fragile about it, you know.
Right.
Um,
That's true.
because there's going to be a lot of times that you don't like somebody or you don't like how somebody did something, but
Right.
it's not your job to go tell people, you
But
know,
it's still here.
but it's
Yeah.
still
what's going
advantageous
on.
for you to work
Yeah.
with them on some level, you know, like.
Right.
So I have a question, and we've wide ranged the convo so fast that I like try to hold on to it before I forget. Sue,
Oh,
you were mentioning you had like 3 different farm. Like I tried to pay attention to it, but it was like you have industrial hemp,
yeah,
and
I
then
want
you have some, like I would imagine like some hemp, like a
craft,
small like
craft
2-3 acre thing
flower.
for extracts, or like like more.
Yeah, so all of our fields are dedicated to different purposes, right?
Okay,
So,
that's what I was trying to clarify. Yeah.
like at my farm specifically, I have one lot that I do specific for a research test lot to trial out in different, seasons, so to say, or taking different genetics and seeing how well they perform out here with different stressors that we may have. And we work really closely with hydro farms and all of their, umbrellas. Hey, shut up. Sorry, it's my dog. My friend just got here. Oh, it's my friend Sabrina who let me be a mom. She's an amazing canna mom in the community, and people should follow her page. She's
Hi,
super
Sabrina.
phenomenal and breaking down
Hi.
stigmas. They said hi to you. You can't hear
I
Hi.
them.
thought you were telling Sabrina to shut up.
No,
No,
no, no,
no.
Yeah,
no.
because
It
like
was
she
my
walked
dog's
right, she
house.
walked in
Oh
right behind
no.
you, and
You
you're
can't
like,
see the
"Shut up!"
Dog.
And
They
I'm like,
thought I was
No.
telling you to shut up on here because they could
We're
only see
like,
you
oh
walking
no.
past. Ah. No, it's the dogs. It's the dogs. Um,
Man, I'm
but yeah,
excited that
everything
you
that
have,
we do
yeah.
is for specific purposes, whether it's extra extraction, fiber, flour, research. So things can change, at different points in times. Right now we work really closely with hydro farms and all of their brands underneath their umbrella. So they do they own a lot of these brands, but they also distribute a lot of these brands, from Roots
Hmm.
Organics,
Hmm.
to,
Yeah,
House
I
and
saw you had
Gardens to
some house and
Moab.
garden. Yeah.
And then they do distribution for like Microbe Hydrolife, Extreme Garden, like they do it for a lot of different companies, right? So
Hmm.
I do a lot of educational work with the nutrient side of things and with the farming side of things within that. I haven't updated my YouTube since the beginning of the season because I did like 30 videos from like a few months and put them all up, and then I was like, oh my god, like I need more time to go through all of
Hmm.
these videos and then upload them. But yeah, so doing educational videos through our projects with Hydro Farm and being able to educate people on, nutrient education to irrigation education to, our watering schedules, when we water, what we're watering, how we're watering, plant biology,
Hmm.
all of those things right there. So that's kind of more, that's more of the
Do you,
educational compass that we do. But I primarily will post maybe like one educational video throughout the week, but that's because I have a content strategy and I could go all
Hmm.
into it. But once a week, once, twice a week, I will typically post an educational thing that's in regards to like the actual like farm side of things itself.
do you have a vastly different approach in gardening or farming to like the industrial hemp versus like the hemp that might be used for extracts or flour or
A bunch.
whatnot?
Yeah, well, because once you get into larger acreage size, like you're looking up upwards of like 100 acres, you're probably not going to be putting down nutrients. You may be doing some soil amendments, but that's going to be
Hmm.
really costly.
Right.
A lot of the irrigation systems, they're not even set up to have a holding tank to do different nutrient
They're just
mixing.
water only.
Hmm.
Hmm.
We've done projects out in Oklahoma. Um, my husband was the whatever, I don't know, he took care of all that shit. Call him whatever you
Yeah.
want to call him,
The
call him
head
master
honcho.
grower, call him
Yeah.
call 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 him does whatever, but he ran a 10,000 acre or cannabis farm out
Wow.
in Oklahoma like 5 years ago. And the way that they were, retrieve the water, they had a pond or like a
Hmm.
pond that was fed into by like a creek or a river or something like right there. Right. And then
Yeah.
they had this $500,000 pump system. Right. And this pump system was huge. It was on a
Yeah.
flatbed trailer truck and then they had
Right.
it backed up into the water almost, and then it's like that's what fed those 10,000 acres. But it's like, thinking about trying to mix nutrients for those things, that's why, like finding very fertile ground or, healthy soil or doing pre-soil testing is like super important if people are looking to do larger sizing. But anyways, so yes, there is a difference because one, a lot of the times those kinds of, farms themselves, if they are putting things down, they're going to be putting down pesticides. Those pesticides primarily are going to be used for weed control because they don't want too much of a ratio of the weeds with the actual plant material itself. There has to be underneath a specific threshold for most extraction cases, as well as, just general plant maintenance. And different cultivation styles, so to say. So like I will do a spring crop and a summer crop outdoors here just because our season allows for two different, ones,
That's
as well
nice.
as being able
Yeah.
to do like a greenhouse, right? So I could do I could do our greenhouse anytime that we want, but it's all just about a preference of, what our buyers are looking for. So say for instance, like, we have if somebody needs if they want more extraction material, that's what we're going to grow for. If they're like,
Yeah.
hey, we're a big seed company and I want you to try out our F1 varieties. And I
Mhm.
want you to grow it out. And I want you to document the research of it. And I need you to give me the feedback. I need you to give me the COAs. We'll buy all the material from you at the end. But we want to try all this out before we go send it out to, farms that are running it for 10,000 acres, right? So
Hmm.
we work really closely with a lot of different people, whether it's on the genetic side or the nutrient side of things. But all of these things kind of change exactly what we're doing and our desired need. So for instance, our property number 3 is all organic. We only use Gaia Organics and Roots Organics
Nice.
out there, right?
That's
Whereas
great.
my property, I do, the syngenics approach, the synthetics and organics is what they like to
Mhm.
call it.
Mhm.
So, I do that approach over here.
Mhm.
I could get into the reasons why I do it, but, I have a lot of different reasons. So,
Got a
teach
lot
their
going
own. If
on.
people do actually watch the different videos that I have, you'll be able to see kind of like, hey, the if I have 3, field lots over at this main farm, I'm utilizing these different practices. So not
Yeah.
every garden has the same watering system, right? So I have 2 different watering systems going on, but not every field gets fed the same thing because I may be trialing out a nutrient line from one company and
Mhm.
doing cross research within those. So maybe it's the same genetics, but I'm doing
2
two
different
different nutrient
inputs.
systems, right? And so then I'm
Cool.
able, like, we're able to give more feedback and give, more applicable real life studies to these
Mhm.
companies, but also to people when, just educating them in general.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
it's pretty fun. I feel like we have
Yeah.
like a nutrient shop like at our own house
So
pretty much because we
That's
just
hell
have a
yeah.
whole thing
Hell
filled
yeah.
with just,
Yeah.
an
it sounds like
assortment.
you get paid to do R&D
Yeah.
for genetics or
Hell
for
yeah.
food companies or what have you, and so you
It's
get to dial in, like you get to learn while getting paid for learning, and then you get to give your feedback to whatever companies, whether it's a genetics company that is testing a couple acres for like a much larger run later and they want to make sure they don't have problems, or maybe you're doing nutrients or amendments and they want to
Yeah.
see how they perform in a field before they can market it to a larger farm. So you get to do stuff like that too.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Is that
exceptional because I think that even if I didn't have flour to sell, the research development portion of what we do and the intertwining relationship that we have with all of these external companies would support me alone, right? So the
Right.
flour is kind of like the extra addition. I have my own,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
like I have my own shop, online. We do sell, we sell hemp. That's
Yeah.
legal.
Nice.
And so it's like at the end of the day,
Farm bill
it
compliant.
it kind of makes, it kind of makes things like really full circle. So there's a lot of things that I feel like farmers could potentially expand upon. Sometimes when people ask me, they're like, oh, what could I do to like, get a bigger following, or how could I work with these companies or whatever. And it's like, or, oh, you like, it's like, oh, you just post that because they pay you to post it. And it's like, okay, well, there's that. Yes, there's that. But there's also a preference of the companies that I work with. I've been working with hydro farms for 2 years now. Their staff has stayed the same for 2 years now. I could run organics, I could run synthetics, I could run whatever I wanted to run. But when I first started utilizing and reaching out to companies to do educational like content creation or produce marketing material or media for them, it was to lessen my load as the farmer. And you know what? I feel like the saying of work smarter, not harder, is
Yeah.
like the ultimate motto. So it's like, if
Oh,
you have all
yeah.
these cannabis farms out there and you're already posting photos of your garden, right?
Right. Yeah. I
Why
hear that,
not work
lady. I
with
hear
some
I
that.
mean,
companies? Why not
I'm
reach
kind
Right.
of
out to the
fat.
company that you
Yeah.
run
Get some
with?
sponsorships. Yeah.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
fascinated by this because when I started working with big ag and doing projects like that, it made me realize how much, and this isn't to diss people in big ag by any means, but it made me realize how much their knowledge base was. They'd been able to work with universities and they'd been able to work with companies for decades, and they'd been able to do this kind of R&D on blueberries or corn, or you could name the crop. And what cannabis had a lot of like growers per se, but like the knowledge base was less. And as you expand bigger, what works, what doesn't work,
Right.
like there's a giant need for R&D. There's a giant need for experimentation and figuring out what best practices are, because you could get somebody who in big ag who's like, I have grown umpteenth million crops in the last 40 years, and they don't have anything where to go back on with cannabis or with hemp.
Yeah.
Like they don't know that plant's crop specific
Yeah.
requirements to get what they're looking for, whether that might be fiber like she was talking about, or whether that might
Right.
be these nutrients
Well, and
bring
then,
forth more extraction capability than these do, and that makes it worth it in this sense. And so I think that's like the giant unknown, is what
yeah. Well,
people
and you
need to be
made the
doing what she's
calls.
doing.
Yeah. You made the calls to get there, right? You made the calls to, it's not like those jobs just dropped on you in the middle of the night. You did the work to get there and to represent yourself and your word,
Definitely.
because like
I was already
I only
posting about it
promote products.
beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's great. I think you're really fucking smart about stuff, lady. I really appreciate you getting on here and like sharing all your knowledge with us today. And I know
Thank
we've got
you.
about 20 more minutes, but I wanted to know if you could touch on your hemp farming, your fiber farming a little bit,
Oh,
because
okay. Do you
you
want to
know,
touch on that, or do you want to touch on the female census for a little bit?
oh yeah, I do want to do that. Yeah, I do want to do that. Yeah, I was just thinking about how I don't hear a lot about people farming industrial hemp, and I know how important it is to the planet. So just like a couple minutes, like because I think when people can have more consumer interest in hemp,
Yeah.
then that will draw for more hemp production and fiber production. And I just wondered, you said you're growing hemp for fiber. Is it being produced into like stuff for animals, or is it more for like people to use to make like clothing and stuff? Do you know what they're doing with
I We do not know personally what they
it?
do
Okay.
with it, because
Mm-hmm.
they just buy it outright from us.
Okay.
Unless I think the last time I talked to them, they said that they were using them for like textile production.
Yeah.
So I was assuming like a cloth, like clothing,
More like clothing. Yeah.
or either like filler for like housing, because
Yeah.
I've seen like the
Batting.
hemp
Yeah.
like crete and everything like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But as of right now, there's still no regulations that have been set forth to allow for hemp fiber or the byproducts to be used for animal specific
Right.
feed.
Yeah.
You know, that is a big thing that like sometimes people will like comment on my stuff. They'll be like, you can't legally give your pig hemp and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, it's my farm and they're
It'll be
here and, you know,
great.
whatever. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
selling
It'll
this
be
to
great.
people or anything like that. But,
Right.
you know, I think that the biggest push that we see is more for extraction rather
Yeah.
than for fiber, specifically in
Right.
California.
Mm-hmm.
And other states like Kansas, and Missouri, some of the more wet states where there's more of a demand for the fiber production
Mm.
from them. But I do
Yeah.
believe that a lot of that is limited to the regulations that they have within what
Right.
genetics they can bring on board, as
Right.
well as their potency thresholds that they have
Yeah.
available.
Well, and also like the processing places
Yeah.
seem to be few and far between, and that's why I
Tons
asked
of
really
extraction
about.
places in California,
Yeah.
from LA to the
Right.
Bay, you know.
But for like retting the hemp for fiber is a different process than like getting the hemp for oil is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's very different. Because it, like the vetting it is, it's or like when they break it and then they crush it and they turn it into fiber. It's more like any like the bast fiber plant, and not so much like treating it like a medicinal plant that you're doing medicinal extractions from.
yeah,
You
when
know,
we
it's
do
almost a completely different plant, right?
exactly. And
Like
so it's like one of the
yeah,
biggest differences is as you know, when we do it here, we do have the capability to dry cure it in the field.
mm-hmm,
So we just leave it in the field because it's not going
yeah,
for extraction purposes, right? It's
mm-hmm,
going for fiber production. So
right,
that basically reduces, you know, kind of like the workflow that you would be doing if you were looking to go into extraction in general. But
right,
even if we sell material that is for extraction itself, it's not going to be all bucked down. A lot of it's
right.
going to be on like everything's still on the stock itself and
Big
it's just
stems
thrown
and stuff.
in a
Yeah.
big,
Mm-hmm.
200-gallon tote white baggie that look like little marshmallows out in the field.
Yeah. When you bag up the hemp plants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it would be cool to see more like fiber production, you know, happen,
Yeah.
but until the need is
Right.
met in the United States for that fiber or for the textiles to be made, there's a lot of
Right.
conversation off of around, you know, like hemp companies or hemp clothing companies getting turned down to like let's say like under hemp, underdog hemp. I don't know exactly what they're called. Whatever.
Mm.
They never messaged me back, but I would love it if they did message me back because they look cool, right? So I saw this
Yeah.
post of theirs and they were like trying to hit up this veterans organization and they're trying to give them a bunch of like free merchandise and they're like, no, we can't accept it because it's like cannabis, you know, whatever. And he's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
not cannabis, you know, like it's hemp fiber. There's no THC
Yeah.
in it.
Like
And it's like I
hemp
completely agree
clothing.
with that. So if there's companies out there that are rejecting the use of industrial hemp made clothing,
Wow.
then it's going to limit the
Yeah.
buyers that are out there.
Yeah,
And
it's
some of these are
true.
big
Yeah, this is all
organizations.
part of
So,
that prohibition and stigma, you
well,
know?
and
Can I?
Yeah.
until they can drop the price as well, because the
Yeah.
pricing for it needs to be,
Yeah, it's
you need to
right.
be able to produce hemp lower than the production of cotton. And it
Right.
is
Right.
For
cheaper
sure.
than the production of
Yeah,
cotton.
it's
So
just
it
the
should
lack
be
of
cheaper on the
infrastructure.
marketplace.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
I'd
right.
like to ask a question that I don't know at all, which is,
Okay, we've got
That
about
doesn't.
yeah. Let's go.
well, when it comes to like fiber production, is it male female seeds? Is it all feminized these days? Because I always used to worry like if we ever
Wow.
went huge into fiber, like if we had acres and acres and acres of like fiber pollen, that it could
Yeah.
Oh,
affect
getting
people
on
growing
the cannabis.
cannabis or
Yeah.
extraction nearby. Is
Yeah.
that what is that? What
So
is that matured to? Is it still all male female? Is it
pollen drift is real, right?
okay?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. There's people out there that claim to know the certain
Mm.
measurements of how far pollen can drift, right? You know,
Right.
it could be dependent. It'd be so
I
dependent.
think it can be
right?
taken by bees too, right? In places.
It can be taken by bees in
Yeah.
places as well. So,
Uh-huh.
yes, you can. A lot of fiber production is with male and female plants out and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the
out,
field.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of, production for genetics has centered around creating triploids. And so creating something that has grain, fiber, and seed in it,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
So that's one of this was one of the biggest pushes in the agriculture area, was that the production would kind of eliminate the need to have different genetics when you could have just one genetic that had
Yeah.
all of the three traits of everything
I
that you
hear
would
you.
like to buy from it, because fiber
Like
comes
it
from the stem of
intersects.
it.
Mhm.
Your seed comes from your seed, your grain comes from the flower,
The
right?
whole. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that there's, um it's all it's all, the production can vary from place to place. Now, do they have to use triploids? No, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, if they're not using triploids, they'll use something that has male and female. But with the triploids, they don't typically reproduce seeds. Or like,
I hear
say for
you.
instance,
Yeah, it's more
that
of an
seed's not
intersex,
viable,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Mhm.
seed is
Mhm.
just a seed at that point. But then that eliminates the potential for that seed to be grown out elsewhere. And I have my own thoughts about, viability of
Yeah.
seeds and about preserving seeds, and how we should be open to genetic selection, and because all of our environments are different.
Right.
And sometimes if we continue to narrow down the genetic lineage into this like bottleneck right here, then it's gonna be hard maybe in 100 years from now, potentially, because I'm just saying this is what we've seen with other agriculture commodities like corn right now, or
Yeah.
beans, because that's always a big conversation in the ag world, is corn and bean genetic selections and the lack of genetics that are available. And when it comes to that, even in California, there's a big citrus farm or a big fruit farm that got sued and gave away all of its fruit, like 200 tons of fruit, to
Wow.
community, like 20 minutes down the road from here, because their licensing, something happened with their licensing with the company, and then they were
Yeah.
told that they can't sell their fruit,
Wow.
and then they were told that now they have to cut down all of their trees, right,
Oh,
that are
that's so
only like
heartbreaking.
5 to 10 years
Oh,
old, that would still have a good lifespan on them.
That's the
um
processing plant that got shut down, right? Because like one of those
wow.
big companies went into bankruptcy, I
yeah,
think is what.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so then
And they
he
had
gave,
contracted with farmers. Yeah.
uh-huh,
Wow.
it was for all the a lot of the big thing happened in California, where this big processing canning, these big canning companies, they all just shut down like
Mm,
immediately. And so there's just like thousands and thousands of pounds of like fruit going to waste and everything. It's not just
wow.
at their farm, it's other people's farms too.
Mm,
Hey,
Peaches and
that's
various
take
crazy.
things
it?
like that.
Can
Hey,
I want to take a step back and respond to something that Notsodog said, and then
Hmm.
okay.
somebody made a post, um, or a comment, and they
Okay.
said, "I wouldn't want to grow anywhere near a hemp farm."
Yeah.
And the thing is, well, would you want to be next to a high THC breeder who's letting a whole bunch of pollen loose either? Because there's no difference,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Like
true. Yeah.
if your crop gets pollinated and you weren't looking for seeds of any kind, then
That's true.
right,
Yeah.
so I mean,
Still
like when you,
contamination.
I mean, it's
Um,
just kind of a nature of, you're saying like I wouldn't want to grow next to a neighbor that was growing for seed, right?
right. That's true.
So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter that it's hemp or
I thought
So,
about asking Sue, and so maybe I'll just ask now because we're running out of time. Do you ever have
yeah, we are.
problems because you're in the Central Valley with drift? Like, say, other farms spraying things that might be perfectly legal for their farm, but isn't good for hemp or cannabis?
So that
Mm,
is a concern that you have to worry
mm,
about if you have a bunch of neighbors like that. Now, where I live at, I don't really have neighboring farms. Now, our other
In the
property,
mountains.
our family farm, which is a mile down the road from us, we just built that out, or we built out the field portion of it last year, right? And so this is the closest farm to me, but I hold the only licensing in a like 45-mile radius of me.
That's great.
Outdoor cannabis production is not allowed in Fresno County, nor is outdoor plants. Like you can only grow your like 6 to 8 plants like inside, right?
Oh, wow.
You can't grow them technically outdoors. So there's nobody that should be legally growing around me. And I would say that if you were looking to move somewhere or whatever, I would look into the zoning and see if outdoor hemp production is there, because now I don't make my seeds outside. All of my flower and my plants that are in my garden are all females. And even if there was a percentage that flipped, maybe due to stress or whatever, I take those plants out. So there's a lot of people that don't, if they're growing larger size plants, it's going to be harder for them to see those things. So like if you are looking at like a few hundred acres, that's going to be harder, right? And if you're looking at a few hundred acres, you're probably going to be on the valley floor, and you're probably going to be next to all of these other agriculture, like citrus or fruit farms, right? And those people will be spraying. So I will touch base on Notsodog's comment on the worrying about, pesticides, drifting over. Yes, that is that's a huge thing. Now the thing though that you can kind of if you are a farmer and if you have bees on your property in the state of California, your neighbors, you can legally ask your neighbors. Now you can't tell them, but you should just go ask them. You should just say, "Hey, I am an organic farmer. I have bees on my property. Can you let me know when you spray?" And they are supposed to tell you when they spray. You can't tell them they can't spray. You can't tell them when they can spray, and you can't tell them what products they can use. But you can ask them. But it is a big concern. So if you're looking at farmland, like a few hundred acres or something, and you're looking, in an actual agriculture community, you may want to look at what's around you, because, for instance, like cherries are usually sprayed with a lot of pesticides, right? There's other crops that are not as bad, but it's all about just kind of identifying what you have around you. You could look and see, are they organic? Most organic farms will have a sign and it'll be like organic farm, yada, yada. Happy
If you have a
season.
big farm next to you, it might all be plain applied.
Yeah.
As well, which would increase the drift. If it's a small farm, it might just be like a little that's pulled behind on their tractor and it doesn't go quite as far. But I just wanted to bring that up.
Elevation though, right, lady? You're kind of up.
We're at 2,000 feet elevation. Yeah.
So that's probably a good advantage.
And then we're 15 minutes from the valley floor.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then literally right around the valley floor is like citrus orchards or either cows. We up in the mountains around here, like there's more cattle, like more ranches and stuff like that where we're at. So it's like it's very unlikely like to see another like hemp farm pop up, because a lot of us are on mountainsides. So it's like I'm on a 45-degree incline where we're at here. But then our other farm has this nice little valley that it's still on the mountain, but it kind of like dips down a little bit, and it has beautiful rich soil and everything, because it's just collected the runoff from like years and years and years. We've never farmed on it, and that's all flat, and I'm super jealous because I feel like I'm walking miles every day here.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. You are. Yeah, so let's run down these statistics about women and women business owners, because I know that you and I have had a little bit of private chat about how important it is to recognize how few women are owning business in the cannabis business, and what we can do to promote each other. And the first comes with the information of what the stats are.
Yeah. So currently right now we've identified 120 female owned or led licensed cultivation facilities in the United States. And that's within hemp and within cannabis itself. Right.
Yeah.
So, like I started with a simple question of like actually asking like how many women actually own farms in this industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's been research in the past few years on ownership, executive leadership, more of an umbrella view that encompass like, the retail, distribution, um, extraction, so it kind of covered all of those right there, right? But it didn't
Mm-hmm.
really go into the specifics on the agriculture side itself. So, honestly, like, what we're trying to do is we're not just making a list of, like, of women, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to establish a national baseline for female
A
ownership
database.
and leadership in licensed cannabis and industrial hemp cultivation. So a lot of the set perimeters is a little bit more expensive than just saying like, hey, are you like, it's not just saying, hey, are you female? Raise your hand, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Are you a female? And do you own 20% or more of a cannabis, facility? Raise your hand,
Right.
right? And then it looks into, do you own up towards to 100% of it, right? Are you actively, how much of a percentage of your time do you actively give to the cultivation facility, a
Mm-hmm.
month? Because I'm not going to say
Mm-hmm.
per week, because our schedules could fluctuate. If you're a badass
Right.
female grower and you own your facilities, hey, maybe you got to fly down because you just released a book or something, and
Yeah.
now
Right.
you have to go on a little tour for a week. But it's just because you weren't there for a week doesn't mean that you weren't present in your facility, right?
Right.
So then also looking at, as well as like how many, what's their agriculture background, how many years have they been a licensed facility owner, what's their acreage, what's their canopy size, whether on the hemp side. Um, and then, honestly, to be able to look and get a clear representation of women within the cannabis, and hemp agriculture side of things, it's really important to look at their backgrounds and what their race and ethnicities are in the situation, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's bigger barriers that Black and Brown and Asian and Native women have had to face to get to
Mm-hmm.
where they're at today. And I think that
Sure.
by giving them their flowers and acknowledging those things, like as a Latina
Mm-hmm.
woman, I know that it's so powerful for me to be here right now. But I
Yeah.
also understand that I am also very white passing, and I've had a
Yeah.
lot of privileges within that. And, maybe this is one of my reasons of why I, chose to go into public health, why I chose to, have a minors within women's studies and a bachelor's within community health, because I could see, not just from my own experiences, but looking at the women that were around me and growing up in
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina to Oregon to California, seeing, this underrepresented and, marginalized group of people, and looking at, and identifying, hey, there are disadvantages, but there are
Yeah.
equitable ways, that we can bring them to a forefront. And so, out of this census, I think this is one of the most amazing things. When you're looking around and you're like, okay, like when I first started, I knew 6 other women of color owned farms, right?
Mm-hmm.
I knew like 1 other Latina owned farm, but when I built this census, it's so far grown to 20 women of color. But
Yeah.
on it, the importance that I see is looking at the actual individual numbers of that ownership itself. And so for Black women, there's 4 women,
Yeah. Wow.
Black women in the United
Yeah.
States, that own
Wow.
licensed cannabis and hemp
Farms that are farming
farms.
just for.
Now, the
Wow.
number that surprised me, really truly
Yeah.
surprised me, because we have the lowest percentage. Latinos in the United States own less than 7% of agriculture, farmland, and businesses, right? In the United
Mm-hmm.
States. Yet we make up more than 91% of it, right? So this does make me proud to see, because I feel that I feel so surprised by this, but the amount of Latina owned farms is
Yeah.
10. half of the list
yeah.
of
Wow.
and this is why it's important to kind of share this information, because there's probably
Right.
other Black owned farmers that are out there, and then she's like, hey, that's me, girl, like I need to be on
Yeah.
that list, right?
Yeah, that's
So
part of building each other up, you know.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it's the networking, the opportunity to work together instead of like to be a competition with each other, that I think is like a really freaking great thing. And it's, you know, what you're doing, it's really empowering for all the other people, you know, that are gonna join that list. I'm hoping that you can tell us like where they could either email or contact you if we do know of a woman of color or just a woman business owner in that's actively
yeah,
agriculturally
please
farming cannabis,
email
huh?
me at
Yeah.
rancheramami@gmail.com, and I will send you over the census. If you also do look at my link tree, I believe it's on my Ranchera Familia farm page. You can click on the census directly right there. It is also available like on our website, rancherafamilia.com. But I am trying to at least kind of wrap up the census by
Oh,
December the 1st,
okay.
because we do plan to start presenting on that and working
Yeah.
actively with the female owned farms that are on here to try to one of the cool things is I had multiple event, companies from MJ Biz to Ignite It that would
Yeah.
love these lists, and because
Yeah.
they would love to have some of these women on different panels.
Yeah.
And if
That's
they
great.
knew who they were, they would have them. And that's what all
Yeah.
of them said. They're like, hey, if we knew who these ladies were, they're like, I would love to have it on it, because we do an event in Chicago and we do an event over here. I didn't know this person was female owned or whatever it is. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is going to open up more opportunities as well
Yeah.
as advocacy and education for us as a whole within the cannabis industry. So thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciated the conversation, and
Yeah.
I come visit me anytime.
Yay. Thank you. Thanks for your
Cool.
time.
Hey,
Yeah.
one thing before we disconnect, when you do hang up, you have to make sure that it's fully uploaded before you close the app. Or are you using a computer or your phone?
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm using my iPad.
Okay.
Tell
So
me how to do it, because I don't ever know how to get out of these things.
so just hang out and let me end the
Yeah. Just hang out
podcast.
for a
Okay.
minute and
Okay. And by
he's
the
going
way,
to end
tomorrow
the show.
Notsodog and I will be recording with Chad Westport, which will be released on Saturday. But anyway, thanks.
We have Women of Weed next week.
Thank you. It
Yeah.
was lovely
Dude,
to
Thank
talk to
I
you.
you.
really
Bye.
appreciate
All right.
everything that you're
Don't hang
doing.
up, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
So.
Hold on. Wait, I pressed the wrong button.